Today on the DLC Drop podcast, we have Marco Mereu. He is the co-founder and COO of XSET, which is a new emerging esports organization. They're really doing innovative things from a lifestyle, music, and gaming perspective. He also has a tremendous career story as starting out as an attorney, getting his foot in the door in the esports industry that way, and has been an entrepreneur in a number of different companies throughout gaming. I'm really excited for you to watch this episode. Drop in the untold stories of industry leaders, influencers, and insights on future innovation. I'm John Davidson, and this is the DLC Drop Podcast. All right, Marco Mereu, thank you so much for joining me on the DLC Drop Podcast. It's super exciting to have you. I've been a fan of XSET ever since you guys started. You've had a lot of announcements of people joining the org and what you guys are doing. So excited to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, man.
So to start off for our audience, why don't you take us back to the beginning of your journey? From what I understand, you were an attorney for 10 years. So if you want to start there, if you want to start even further back, tell us how you got started.
Yeah, to go even farther back, I've really been involved in gaming almost my entire life, as a fan. It's a very passionate area for me, something I've been involved with at every stage of my my growth as a person, right? So, really quickly grew up in South Florida, grew up in Miami, moved to Boston in the early 90s to go to Northeastern University, ended up going to law school up here. And as you mentioned, I ended up becoming an attorney and practicing law for about 10 years in the Boston area.
So how is Boston from an esports standpoint? I know the Boston Uprising have an Overwatch League team there, but is there much of a presence up there?
No, none of the teams have really, secured or like a Boston presence, or really bought into the Boston, like the culture of New England itself as a region, right? So there's a couple teams that have been from the area, around the area, but no one's really kind of tapped into the same type of, real cultural following as the traditional sports teams up here.
Yeah.
But for me, I like I said, I could talk more about the legal profession. I left. I used to have a pretty active practice. I had a conveyancing practice, an intellectual property practice, where I worked with a lot of startups, like in the MIT area, doing all types of different things. But I honestly, I really recall coming into my office one day and just having a stack of files from real estate closings and looking at those and just being like, there's just no way I'm going to continue to do this anymore. It's just way too boring. So I gave my staff 6 months severance that day, and I just shut down my office, and I decided I was going to move to the game industry full time. And that was just something that I felt passionate that I wanted to do, and it was the right time to do it for me. So I did that, and I ended up, the first job I ever had in the game industry was I was general counsel, so still technically a lawyer. But I was also running U.S. business operations for, at the time, what was one of the biggest and most popular mobile browser-based games in the world, a game called Ebony, that had a lot of past, I guess you could say, press written about it for some of the things that they had been doing prior to me getting there. I came on along with a guy named Walt Yarborough, who is a well-known game developer, and essentially we worked with the Chinese counterpart team to develop what was really the biggest browser-based game in the world. Had over 40 million players. Wow. It was a hugely successful game. It was the game that really gave rise to a lot of games like Kingdoms of Camelot and games that companies like Kabam built entire corporations around.
Yeah.
So it was it was a good experience. I was there for about 4 years. And we had a lot of interesting things happen when you're running a major worldwide game like that for a Chinese organization. We dealt with everything from hackers to publicists in other countries that were saying things about the game, and it was a very tumultuous journey for me.
Yeah.
But it was great to get to work with a game of that scale, both like from a financial perspective as well as the game itself. And after about 4 years, I realized that I wanted to go out and start my first company in gaming. I thought we could do it, and this was back in 2013. I felt like back then the value that a game publisher could bring to a game developer was a lot different than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? It wasn't as
Sure.
much about getting on a truck and going to GameStop anymore. It was about having someone who could help get you featured in the App Store, having someone that could help you understand how to monetize your game, or
Right.
do user acquisition for a mobile title. So I started at the time, which was one of the first mobile independent publishing labels called Gambler. And I think back then it was like us and Tilting Point were the first kind of organizations to do that. And what we did was we looked for and identify really high quality independent mobile titles that we could come on as a publisher and add value to, and work with the developers so they could focus on making the game, and we would focus on the business functions with the outside of the game, getting the game featured, getting users into the title, continuing to understand how to monetize it and grow the game for an indie developer. And when I think we did 7 games in 2 years,
Wow.
we got 7. We did 8 games in 2 years. We got 7 featured by Apple, and there were a couple editors' choices in there as well. So we had, really good relationship with the platforms. I remember meeting with Apple one year at GDC in my first year, and it was ahead of gaming in the App Store. And I sat down with them and I just took a deep breath and I said, you guys aren't really doing shit for indie games in the App Store, and you're leaving
Yeah.
a lot of high quality games on the ground, and you need to, as a platform provider, you need to step up and do more and give those games a chance. And they didn't get up and leave, and they were pretty responsive to that. And we started a good relationship with them, and we showed them the quality independent product games that were coming out, and they took the time to feature those titles. And those titles are still well played and downloaded in the App Store today. Games like Zengrams and Pathogen and Third Eye Crime and a number of others, right? So that was a great experience. It wasn't a venture class business, really. It was a publishing business, so
Uh-huh.
it was profitable. But what we realized through that is that we needed to find a way to get users into our games other than writing a big check to Facebook or Google, right?
Right.
So in 2015, I started to do the first performance-based YouTuber influencer campaigns for my games, where I would basically pay an influencer on YouTube to make a sponsored video about my title,
Yeah.
and I'd pay them per install with a download. And what we found was we got probably some of the best users for the game, the best LTV, the best longevity, the best retention rates. And one of my investors at that time said, if you put a little bit more money and time into that, I'll invest in that. So I ended up shifting from Gambler to a company that I started called Rooster.
Uh-huh.
And Rooster was, at the time, it was the first two-sided marketplace where mobile game publishers could do direct deals with any YouTube influencer
Cool.
to make a sponsored video about their game, right? So for mobile publishers, it gave them a way to measure performance on, influencer advertising for them.
Yep.
And for the YouTubers, it was a way to get offers without an MCN, without an agent. You could go into the marketplace and browse an offer and pick it up. We had a lot of people back then that are very, much, much bigger now. People like Sniper Wolf and Chief Pat and Nick at Night, Mold. A lot of these bigger YouTubers back then that only had a couple 100,000 followers now have, millions, if not tens of millions.
Right.
We're on Rooster making money, making sponsored content. And it blew up very, very quickly. I sold that company in 2015 in about 8 months to a company called Chartboost out of San Francisco.
Okay.
Chartboost is a mobile marketing company. So I sold Rooster to Chartboost, went to Chartboost to run Rooster for them for about a year. And that was a period in a time when mobile game, I felt like, was really stagnating, right? And the quality of titles that were out there were you weren't getting good titles fast and quick enough. I mean, if you look at the top 10 mobile games today, you probably it's the same games as they were 4 or 5 years ago. Clash of Clans, Candy Crush, all those titles, and it just got stagnated, and we didn't feel like it was a good fit anymore. So I left at that point, right? And then I continued. I mean, I guess I'm just kind of running through all these, if that's what you want me to do.
Yeah,
but.
no, that's perfectly fine. We can go back and pick out
Cool.
specific things. I'm taking some notes to a
Yeah.
couple things I have questions about, but loving it. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, I'll stop it at XSET. So after that, I started a company called eStars. Originally, it was called eStars, and eStars was supposed to be a masterclass for gaming, where we were teaching players how to game. We built a platform, we built the engineering, we did everything around that platform. We launched it. And I think within 2 days, we realized that the quality of stuff that people could get for free on YouTube was just as good, if not better,
Oh,
than
wow. Yeah.
anything that we could pay content creators to make. And that this was not the type of content that they needed or wanted. And at that time, we looked at social networks, especially short form social video, as an area that nobody had really gone after aggressively to put out gaming content. So we moved the conversation from just Twitch and YouTube to Instagram and Instagram TV and TikTok and shorter form video networks like that, where we felt that we knew gamers were, we thought we could capture their attention.
Yeah.
And and then we eStars became Framerate, and Framerate became an esports and gaming content network, on short form video networks, right? So that's how Framerate was born. Ran that company for roughly about a year and a half. Built it from 0 to 50 million views a month with a team of 3 people.
Wow.
And and then I think we really demonstrated that we were doing more views on Instagram than companies like IGN or GameSpot or a lot of other major networks. And it was strictly because we understood what gamers wanted to watch at that time, and
Yeah.
it was really gameplay highlights and clips and like the best plays of the day is what people really wanted to watch. So that's what we gave them.
There's a lot to unpack there. Do you want to keep going to XSET, or you want to? I got a couple of questions
Yeah.
to unpack
Why
right
don't
there.
I could just finish up frame rate and then we could jump on the questions, right?
Yeah,
But
that'd be
like,
great.
with frame rate, I ended up selling that company to Super League Gaming in 2019. Super League is a publicly traded company out of Santa Monica.
Yep.
And I went on there as an SVP to help them run frame rate and also help them with their content strategy internally at that company, right? And then stayed there for a little less than a year, and then we started down the path towards founding XSET.
That's incredible. A lot to unpack there. So, my first question, going back to your attorney days when you went then into the mobile games industry, did you see that, okay, my experience as a lawyer can get me into this space because that is needed, and so that's going to be my foothold, or my foot in the door, or was there some other strategy there personally?
Yeah, no. So I mean, that's exactly what I did. Is I recognized that my skill set that I had would be one that somebody in gaming would need to use at some place or form, right? So when I was originally hired, I was interviewed by this company on Skype at like 1 a.m, right? So at first
Yeah.
I'm like, this is definitely totally sketchy. This is really weird, and it's either going to go really, really badly, or it'll work out well. And I ended up staying for 4 years, but yeah, I mean, I recognized that I could leverage my skill set as an attorney who understood gaming and topics that were relevant to gaming, like DMCA's and intellectual property rights.
Yeah.
I was a general counsel in every shape of the word. So if there's something I need to understand, I learned it on the job, right? But yeah, I definitely use that to segue. And then once I was there, I got very involved on the game development and business side of the house, and I quickly became kind of the head of the U.S. business side for the game as well. So that I really shifted and got to the point where we actually had our own legal counsel, and I shed as much of the legal work as I could
Sure.
so that I could just focus on the business.
I don't blame you. Um, I think that's a great example for our audience, especially younger viewers. Is one thing that I love so much about. I have a big passion for educating high school and college kids on how to get into the industry, and it's so great that, similar to traditional sports, you have all of these kind of normal skill sets that you can get in education or have experience in, that then can be applied to the gaming and the esports industry. You just have to kind of understand those intricacies and how they apply directly. So I think that's a great it's a great lesson for younger people to say, hey, you don't have to do something that appears to be super specific to esports or gaming. You can have other general interests or expertise, and those apply to this space. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I talk to students all the time in the Boston area. I mean, there's a million different things that you can do that to help you break into the industry. Right. I mean, probably the most important is just hard work and like persevering and finding the right space for you. And demonstrating that you're a doer, right? And you get things done.
Yep.
But, with gaming, there's just so many avenues now, and it's such a big industry now that, whether it's creative, technical, performance based, like whatever it is, there's a lot of different ways you can move into the game industry.
Absolutely. So when you went, so you started as a lawyer, then you're going more business. Did you have a business background in addition to your general law practice, or did you kind of figure that out as you went?
Well, I think running my own practice for about 10 years was, some business experience, right? So,
Yeah.
so for me, it's, I think I've almost always been self-employed in some way, shape, or form. I was a bartender for 8 years in law school and undergrad. I mean, I graduated. My first job out of law school was running a business for a former judge who had a private mediation arbitration firm. So my first job out of law school was a business focused job. I wasn't even practicing law. It was really,
Oh,
I was
got it.
just running this guy's business for him. And I did that for a few years before I went on to start my own practice. But it's something that you have to be passionate about and enjoy the process of, whether it's a big company like XSET or whether it's a small, law practice like I had. Like, you have to enjoy the journey of taking something from a concept and a vision and an idea to an actual, brand, a product, a company, and developing that over time.
Right. And would you say, because I know a lot of people know, we're always talking about, oh, your passion and your work. And, I think 50 years ago, it was like, go to the coal mine whether you like it or not, right? Nowadays, maybe because there's more choices. Would you say that you can grow to enjoy those things, or like, okay, this is my job, and I kind of figure out a way to enjoy that if I didn't originally, or you think you just have to just go after what your kind of natural passion is there?
I mean, I really think you have to go after what you're passionate about. I mean, I don't think I've ever had a job that I felt like was a job except for when I practiced law.
Okay.
Like, that definitely felt like a job sometimes. But when I get up to work for XSET, or when I used to get up to work for Gambler or the other companies that I've started, I love what I do. Like, I'm having fun all day long. I'm building exciting, interesting things. We're doing innovative, activations where, I mean, I have the best job in the world right now, right? I mean, who wouldn't
Yeah.
want to run an esports team? So, whether it's building the rosters, or doing the partnerships, or, hiring and seeing our team grow, and helping people up. So, like, yeah, I mean, I love what I do. I never look at it as work at all. It's just something that I look forward to getting done.
Yeah, so just I guess younger people who are, looking for that thing, just keep looking, right? I mean, sometimes I guess you have to have the job to pay the bills, but while you're doing that, continue to look for opportunity, look for things kind of outside that 9 to 5 to find a way you can pay your bills with that passion. Is that
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a big fan of following your passion into whatever you're going to do, and just, probably do it better than anybody else.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Well, it sounds too like the success that you had with Rooster and then at Frame Rate. A lot of it seems like you were just really in touch with the community, that you had your finger on the pulse of what gamers wanted. With the influencer model at Rooster, was that something that you saw replicated elsewhere before, or you just knew that that was the way to get gamers playing the game?
It was something we thought about, like, how could we knew that YouTube influencers had a big impact,
Yeah.
right? In terms of what people wanted to play. And I think the question was really, there had never really been a mechanism, though, to do deals with them based on performance and actually based on their installs. So,
Mm,
I was just, the paid user acquisition game in mobile is great if your name is, Facebook or Google. For everybody else, it's
for
nothing.
sure.
It's only something where it gets more and more expensive all the time, right? So, like, it's not really a business that you want to be in, right? So we just looked at it, and what I've done over my career from an entrepreneurial perspective,
Yeah.
with every company that I've started, is I've always tried to look first for, like, a problem and try to figure out, okay, is this a real issue in this industry right now? Is this something
Yeah.
that people need to figure out, and will add value if we can come up with a solution for it? And if it is, I just go after it as hard as hell, like, and try to figure it out, right? So in
Yeah.
that case, it was, how do I do influencer marketing, um, but base it on performance and not just overpay, not just write a check to someone who creates a video? How can I actually
Right.
articulate the actual value I'm getting from an influencer who makes a video about my game that I can measure, not just from an install, but all the way through the lifetime of that user and like what the value of that user is over time.
Yep.
And it was, we looked at it, we're like, okay, we're going to have to build this really complex platform and hire engineers. And then a friend of mine named Tim O'Neill from San Francisco, who's a very smart mobile executive, said, why don't you just license this, white label this product that called Has Offers that Tune had available, which we did that for $800 a month. And we turned that into our software platform. So that was our entire engineering feat until maybe 6 months down the road. I hired a guy named Dylan Tai, who happens to be the head engineer for Juked right now. I'm sure you're familiar with Juked.
Yep.
The esports platform. Dylan is over there now, but Dylan came on to work with me, and he helped us polish it up. He helped us turn it into, we built on top of that. But we recognized like this is something that people needed, right? And we recognized that. I think the second game we put on the marketplace was Angry Birds 2, and we had 50 YouTubers sign up to make videos for the game overnight.
Oh, wow.
And we, I think, ran through the budget for that title in less than 24 hours to like drive installs for it. But it was very effective, and that's just something I've looked for time after time. Whenever I start a company, is okay, is this an actual problem that needs to be solved that doesn't exist just yet? And if there is, there's a good chance you can build a company around it.
Yeah, I interviewed somebody the other day, Susan Paley. She's a former CEO of Beats by Dre. Now she's with Drop Labs, a haptic technology shoe company. And she was sharing how, because there's so many startups nowadays, especially in tech, you kind of a lot of times have companies that are built to solve solutions and then they go search for a problem. But the way things should be, and the most effective startups and companies are they find a problem, they solve that. Have you experienced both sides of that equation?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen both sides of the equation. Um, people that they approach it in different ways, right? So I guess it's just a matter of what they, what they think is a good fit.
Yeah. So with the influencers, so you're switching to obviously the pay being based on their performance. Did you get any pushback originally
Oh
on
yeah,
that?
yeah. So originally, because they're used to getting flat fees, some of the first influencers we had, I knew it would work really well.
Uh-huh.
Just being a mobile game publisher, and a few of the guys at first said, you've got to guarantee me I'm going to make at least $500 on this video. Like I
Right.
have to make at least $500 for this. And I said, you're going to do this video and you're going to make $5,000. So don't even worry about it. Right. So
Yeah.
I would give them a minimum guarantee to make the video, and they would make the video and they would generally earn close to 10x like what they thought they were going to get. Right. So as soon as they
Right.
did that, the whole goal with Rooster was really to get the better creators to do the first video. And once they saw what they could do with the video, they would go in there and sign up for multiple offers, right?
Yeah.
Because at the time, I think YouTube CPMs on advertising were only something like back then, I think it was even like maybe like $6-7 at the
Okay.
most they're getting. And we average on Rooster, we were averaging like $120 CPMs,
Oh,
right?
wow. Yeah.
For YouTubers. So it was a no-brainer. And like I said, it worked really, really well. And it was kind of gave birth to a number of other companies that were very comparable and have kind of tried to replicate the model. I don't think anybody's ever really done it as well as we did it with Rooster, but
Yeah.
there've been, FameBit was one, but FameBit was focused on all different types of content creators.
Okay.
With Rooster, we were very specifically focused only on gaming influencers, nobody else.
Got it.
Right. So you knew when you came to Rooster, you were going to get a gaming focused content channel.
Makes sense.
I mean, gaming was a big enough sector at that time to do that I didn't need to go after, you know, um, food and beverage and cosmetics or anything else. I could just focus on gaming and build a company around it.
Yeah, in fact, I remember when I was at GameStop, we were looking at our influencer strategy. This was a number of years ago, but I think 8 of the top 10 influencers were gaming influencers. So you kind of have the
Yeah.
bulk there just because from a content standpoint, the way it's consumed, it just works so organically.
Yeah. It works really well.
And it sounds like too with that, the performance based, it's kind of like when you proposition an employee for whether it be like hourly versus commission. I long time ago when I was in college, I worked at Sears for like 3 months selling refrigerators, and nobody buys refrigerators in the fall, is what I found out. That's when I was working there. But there was this one girl who worked in the electronics department who like they gave everybody the option, hourly or commission. And there's this one employee who opted for commission and she crushed it like crazy. And of course, she's the type of person that would do well with that. But to bring that back to your experience here, not only are these influencers going to find out they're going to make more money, but you're going to get higher quality influencers because they're confident in their performance rather than, no, I'm just comfortable with the flat fee. I probably wouldn't trust that influencer nearly as much.
Yeah. Yeah. We never forced an influencer to make a video. We never told them what to say. We gave all creative control to them, and generally they would, they had the option. Like if they didn't like the game, they didn't have to make a video. If they liked the game, they can make the video, right? So
Right.
it was really, we developed a lot of enemies in that business because a lot of the MCNs back then, like some of the bigger multi-channel networks did not like what we were doing because they looked at it as cutting them out of the picture, which we did. And I was happy to do that because a lot of those MCNs were not adding value to 90% of the content creators under their banner. They were just kind of like, taking value. So we kind of enjoyed the fact that, we gave creators an ability to earn what they keep and not have to share it with somebody else that wasn't really bringing deals to them anyway.
Right. Makes sense. So similarly with frame rate, once again, you have your finger on the pulse of what gamers are looking for from a content perspective. What kind of helped inform that decision or the type of content you did there? Was that your experience? Was that people you were associated with, or something else?
No, honestly, this is this is probably another good example of a business story for people that are interested in this kind of stuff. Is
Yeah.
When we started off, we thought we wanted to create a lot of well-produced content, right? Shows, original content, stuff that requires a lot of dollars and post-production and pre-production time.
Yeah.
And we started doing that, right? We made shows in New York City. We were shooting stuff in Central Park. We were producing a number of different things. We were shooting stuff at Barstool. And then what we also did was we had a show called Rec Reel, and Rec Reel was nothing but just the best highlights from that week, all blended into one reel with music.
Yeah.
And we looked at it, and Rec Reel was doing 10 times the views, 10 times the engagement than all these other shows were cost. And at the same time, highlights are created every day all over the world by gamers everywhere. They love to get featured. They love to get the growth on their social channels from getting identified. And we found that those videos, those highlight videos, did really, really well. It's probably the most engaging content you can put in front of gamers. And it was funny because it was an early stage startup. We raised less than $1 million to build that company. And the truth was we were running out of money, right? So we were running out of cash. And as the end of I think 2018 wound down, we recognized, wow, the thing that we spent most of our money and time on, which is building original content, doesn't perform anywhere near as well as just highlights and clips and really great plays.
Yeah.
Let's focus on that and focus less on spending money to produce content, right? And let's just focus on giving people what they want to watch.
Yeah.
And as soon as we started to do that, we started to see a huge spike in viewership, right? Growth, viewership, scale, minutes watched, everything. But as a business at the same time, we literally were running out of money.
Yeah.
And then in December of that year, we actually did run out of money, right? So frame rate technically was like kaput. It was over. I had to lay people off.
How big was the team at that point?
At that time, it was probably like maybe 4 or 5 people total, right? It still wasn't a huge team, but no matter if your team is big or small as a founder, like, that moment when you realize like it's over, it's hard because people are going to lose their jobs and you're thinking to yourself, what have I done? I put all my time and effort and savings into this, but it just, it was at a point where we started to see great growth, but we ran out of cash and I let people go. I sat down and I started to think about like, what am I going to do for work? I've got to go and find a job now. Holy shit.
Right.
So I started to think that, and then I just, I woke up, I think the next morning and the morning after that, I think we were offline for maybe 2 days. We stopped. We didn't put any content out.
Okay.
And I just woke up and was like, you know what? There's absolutely no friggin' way that we're going to like give up on this right now. Just when we see the light, we turn the corner, we figure it out. we can't just run out of money. So
Yeah.
I got on the phone with an investor that I had. I went out to Worcester, Massachusetts,
Yeah.
and I sat down with three personal injury attorneys who were probably all 75 plus. Who probably knew nothing about gaming. And I just said to each of them that I said, listen, we've figured something out here and we know what we're doing. I need you guys to all do a small investment in this company as a safe note, and we're going to give you a reasonable guaranteed return on your money, but we need a little bit of more runway to make this work.
Right.
And whatever I said resonated. They all wrote me checks that day on the spot.
Wow. All of them.
Went back to Boston, deposited the checks. I hired back my social media manager at that time, a guy named Mike Bitton. Mike came back and I just told him, I said, this is working. We got to make it happen. We can't give up. And, Mike was willing to come back and kind of work for me. And I didn't take a salary for a while. And this is probably early January now.
Yeah.
And we just kept doing what we were doing, right, with a team of two. And, about 3.5 months later, as we continue to grow and get really, really big, I was approached by Super League Gaming, who saw what we were doing and I think recognized the value of that audience and those channels. And, they came down with, what I thought at the time was they wanted to advertise with us, and they ended up, making us an offer to acquire the company.
Wow, incredible.
So
That's quite
so
that's quite an up and down. That's the real life of an entrepreneur right there.
yeah, it's literally, into the depths of the jaws of hell, whatever it is, and shut down and kind of reach back in and bring it back to life and just keep believing in what you're building and seeing the growth. And, if you build something valuable, there are going to be people that are going to be interested in being involved with that.
Yeah, I think that speaks too to the importance of your passion as well, right? Like you were talking about at the beginning of this episode, is you know you weren't willing to let that go, even though you had ran out of money. You went the extra mile because you believed in this thing so much more than just from a financial aspect. It sounds like, and had you not
Yeah.
been super passionate about it, probably would have said, this thing's not making any money. I got to go find the next thing, right?
I mean, look, the honest truth is you have to be a little bit crazy too, like to take it as far as I took it,
Yeah,
and to keep doing it. Most rational people probably would have bailed before completely running out of money.
sure.
Um, but we literally continued to try to raise. We believed in what we were doing until the point when it wasn't possible anymore. And then I just had to kind of wake myself up and turn it around and to get us a lifeline, which I was able to do.
Yeah,
And it's good because you never want to see your investors lose money. I've never had an investor lose money in one of my companies. So, um, you want to step up both for yourself and for them, right? To show
yeah,
them that there's validation in what you told them, what you believed in. So, we went out and we did that, and, we kept growing the company, and we kept doing what we did, and we allowed brands to work with us, and those highlights turn them into like assets, really, to kind of reach users and gamers or with content. So it was a great experience, really cool, a great company to sell to in Super League, and um, and brought it over there and helped them where they continue to run it to this day, right? So
right.
um,
That's incredible. I want to talk a little bit about XSET, but before I get there, you've had wins and you've had, I don't know if losses is the right way to put it, but for the entrepreneurs that are listening to this episode, what would you say when if somebody's in that point where they don't know if they should keep going, or they're in the valley much more than the peak, what has helped you to continue persevering and keep going at it when it seems like what you're trying isn't working, or you're not sure if you're going to stay in business?
I think one of the most important things you need to do, and I do for myself as well, is you have to have a plan. Like you can't get into a business and just say, I'm going to keep trying to make this happen and spend 2, 3, 4, 5 years toiling with no success and no exit strategy, right? At all. Like you have to say to yourself, okay, I'm going to build this business. And in 1 year, it's going to be doing this or I'm out. Like we're going to have an inflection point of this capability within this time frame, or I'm going to pull the plug, because nobody likes to kill their own babies, right? Like
Right.
the hallways are scattered with you know babies that people just did not want to give up on, and they're still straggling. But you really have to have a plan about what you're trying to build. you have to be strategic about how big it's going to be. Is it something that you believe is a real problem that's being solved? And more importantly, are there companies out there that may be bigger than you that have resources and also agree that that's probably a problem that you could, present nicely for, right? So
Right.
you got to have a plan in place. You got to keep moving the ball forward. And I think the most important thing that a lot of entrepreneurs don't think about or sleep on is you have to have some type of strategy around monetizing what you're doing and creating revenue and running a sustainable business. You can't just
Yeah.
build an idea and think people are going to come. You've got to build a business. Otherwise, there's no point to it. And that goes for everything from Rooster to Frame Rate to XSET, right? In terms of how we run this organization. So you got to have a plan. It's got to be a business. You got to create a product, and you got to, fulfill a need or solve a problem. And you have to work really hard to do that. So if you do all those things, you have like a 5% chance of success. So again, it's not something that generally a rational person is going to want to go and do.
Right.
But I just can't seem to keep a day job. So,
What would you say that it is? I've experienced entrepreneurship the last about 6 months starting my own company, and it's one of those things that I think I can't speak to it like some veteran, of course, but it's the type of thing. Once you do take that step, you do experience some things that are unique. The freedom, the opportunity, not just freedom with your time, as far as okay, I can work at night rather than go pick up my kid from school at 2 o'clock or whatever, but also freedom with ideas. That's what gets me excited is like, wow, I can really do anything I want. Obviously, I have to make it viable for the market and everything. But there's nobody telling me what to do necessarily. What are the things as an entrepreneur that can't seem to take a day job, as you said, that is so attractive about entrepreneurship?
for me, I mean, it's really about the ability to take an idea and build a company around it. That's always been a very appealing personal motivator for me is the idea of taking a name or an idea or a brand or a vision for what if we built this, and actually taking that idea, because a lot of people have ideas, right?
Sure.
So but taking that idea and executing on that idea as a business and growing it and seeing it come to life and seeing it scale is a really wonderful thing, right? Like when we started XSET, we had 4 people. Now we're up to almost 55.
Yeah.
Between all of our talent and our players and our people internally, and and these people are passionate about their career now. Like they love XSET, they love working at the organization. Like we love that, having them here. The players are we're a good relationship with, but taking an idea and really building it into something real and innovative and being a thought leader is a really cool thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
And it's how I choose to spend my time.
Cool. So tell us about this idea that's now a business called XSET. What brought that? How is this different than what we've seen some of the other orgs or
Yeah.
seen in the esports industry so far?
Yeah, so I mean, at the time, honestly, this is probably like end of 2019, early 2020. Um, I had decided that I wanted to move on, I think, from Super League, and that I was really interested in, being a lifelong gamer and esports fan. I wanted to look at an opportunity at, owning or investing in a team, right? So I actually went down a road pre-exit of looking at acquiring another organization out there on the West Coast that was potentially for sale. Put an ownership group together. Was a part of that, a small part of that ownership group. Um, Put an offer in on the team that we felt like was a good offer.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to be hearing back, I think, from the owners that day, and ended up being told that they were going to go to a different offer. That was actually a less offer, which was a little mind-boggling to us at the time, but it is what it is. And I think, I was out in California that week, and 2 days later, I actually went to go see a good friend of mine. It's kind of Greg Selko. Greg and I, obviously partners now. Greg was president of FaZe for about 3 years.
Yep.
Greg and I go back about 20 years in Boston. He was the founder of Karma Loop, good entrepreneur. I thought the type of person that I like to work with that has the guts and has the capability to build something very valuable, right? I
Sure.
mean, Karma
Yeah.
Loop was, did over $1 billion lifetime revenue. It was a big company.
Wow.
And I saw Greg out in LA, and I knew him from Boston, and I knew his family was here. I used to bartend with his wife. So
Small world.
I said, and that's where I said to him, I said, look, everything in esports right now is stuck in a Southern California culture bubble. It kind of looks and feels the same. All the organizations are kind of doing the same thing, for better or worse.
Yeah.
We're East Coast guys. No one's doing anything on the East Coast of consequence in this space. Nobody's tapping into, East Coast mentalities, New York, Boston, Philly, Miami, Atlanta. No one is tapping really into hip hop and music and culture and urban
Yeah.
culture the way we could, and the way we knew that we should. And we realized that, today's gamer is a much different gamer than it was 5 or 10 years ago. It's much more diverse, much more inclusive, much younger. Um, they want different things from an organization that I think a lot of fans did, a couple of years ago, that they want to be more social. They wanted to, cross over into the merchandise they wear. They want to see their favorite highlights on TikTok. They want to cheer for their favorite teams and go to live events. And they want to do a lot of things that we felt like a lot of Warriors weren't really delivering on. But most importantly, we really felt like gaming needed to get more diverse. It needed to get more inclusive. It needed to really represent a lot of different people. And we were the ones that were going to try to make that happen.
That's
And that
cool.
was really a core fundamental starting point for us with XSET, we were going to build something different.
Yeah.
And Greg agreed to do it. And then Clinton and Will came along, also from FaZe. And, we launched the organization in July of last year. And it's been, 7 months of just, nonstop trying to prove our point and to get to where we want to be.
Yeah.
And it's been exciting. It's been a great time so far.
Well, it seems like you guys are doing a great job. It's like nothing but announcements over the last 7 months is kind of what it seems like. And today, the day of this recording, there's an announcement that HyperX joined you guys as a partner, which congratulations.
Thank you.
Seems like a perfect fit too. All they do from an entertainment perspective, I know they do a lot with traditional sports athletes, with musicians, and also, of course, with gamers. Talk a little bit about competition versus entertainment from an org's perspective. I'm curious if you have a take on that.
Yeah. So a couple things. I mean, I always feel like gaming in general at the highest level is entertainment, right? I mean, that's
Yep.
ultimately gaming is about entertainment. Gaming is more to me WWE than the NFL, right?
Yeah.
It's much more about being entertaining, being fun. Definitely can be competitive, no doubt, but it really is an entertainment focused, like space versus just being strictly um, competitive, right? So,
Right.
so for us at XSET, XSET as a whole, as a brand, as an organization, is really, when we talk about it internally, it's more of a movement. It's more about getting people culturally feeling that this is something they want to be a part of. This is something they can support. We have 9 competitive esports teams at XSET, right? With
Yeah.
everything from, our Valorant team, which has been performing really, really well. We're really proud of those guys. To our Rocket League team, to our competitive Fortnite team, to our Warzone players. We have some of the best in North America for Warzone.
Yeah.
We have one of the best Madden players in Joke. We've got the 3-time world champ women's CS:GO team, which is actually the highest, most winning women's esports team in history.
Cool. Yeah.
We have mobile gaming covered. And then we have one new title we're getting into that we'll be announcing in a few weeks that we're really excited about as well. And then we just recently got into eNASCAR and iRacing, which was the first race was last night. And that is absolutely a space that's about to explode right now. If you haven't watched it yet, I
Yeah.
highly recommend you check it out.
Definitely.
So we have competitive, but what we also have is obviously we have content creation, we have streamers, we have a number of professional athletes that what we call 2A athletes, or like the Bo Jacksons and Michael Jordans of the world from back in the day. Like
Yep.
they're a professional athlete, but they also take their gaming and their streaming really seriously.
Mm.
So, we brought on several of those, both as investors and partners, to be a part of XSET, to represent XSET. So we have those, and then we have really kind of some of our unique personalities, people like Minnestes, who's a 14-year-old Olympic skateboarder, amazing role model, just absolute rock star.
Yeah.
We've got U.S. Olympic rugby players. We just added a NASCAR race car driver, Anthony Alfredo. We have recording artists like obviously like guys like Sway Lee and some other ones that we're going to be announcing pretty soon. But the underlying current is always a passion about gaming and loving games, right? And like
Yeah.
wanting to be playing games, creating content, streaming, understanding that these days there's basically 3 things that kids do. They they play games, they watch other people play games, or they watch Netflix, right? So
Yeah.
we just, we want to be a big part of that ecosystem. So we want people either watching our teams, playing games with our content creators or streamers. We have sub games all the time. Watching content that we produce or we create, and just really, feeling like this is a place where maybe they can identify with people on our roster. They can identify with people in our company. They feel like there's a diverse, you know, you know, roster of talent that represents who they are, right, and
Yeah.
how they feel. So yeah, I mean, it's all really important stuff for us, and we're really excited about what we're building. HyperX is a great partner. Culturally, they're the perfect fit for us. I mean, they're doing a lot of this stuff as well
Yeah.
over there. They've with everything from Post Malone to Joel Embiid, like they're very culturally savvy and understand what gamers are all about. We feel the same way, so we think we're going to do some really cool stuff together.
Yeah, I think one thing that's kind of the theme that's gonna be 2021 is, the mainstreaming of gaming in culture. It was really cool watching the Super Bowl, looking on my Twitter feed and seeing all these people I know say, "I was on a Super Bowl commercial for the first time," and, saw it with some skateboarders as well as some gamers. But talk a little bit about how you see the future of gaming and interacting with broader culture.
Yeah, so I mean, gaming again, like it has expanded now to the point where it's it's easily the largest consumer segment, right, and market out there. I mean, almost everybody under 30 games in some way, shape, or form,
Right.
right? So I think a lot of this is really about understanding and capturing and building a relationship with this demographic, versus trying to appeal to people that might not be interested in gaming, right? So for us, I mean, gaming is prevalent in music culture. Every musician that we know that we work with plays video games in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
Recording artists, movie stars, people, celebrities, everybody games, right? I
Yep.
game, you game. Like, I mean, it's something that really almost everyone does at this point. And then it's really about collectively bringing them together, um, and helping people understand like this is a common thread. So if you want to watch content at XSET or play games with people from XSET or watch our teams play, you can do that. You can rep the merchandise. You can do really whatever you want to do, and you can be a part of something. Like you don't have to just be signed by us to be a part of XSET. Anybody who's an XSET or reps a set is a part of XSET, right? So
Yeah.
the kids that send us, photos from the jerseys that they bought, like, it's a very powerful movement that we're trying to build organically and over time. But we really feel like this is really the new face of gaming, and it's kind of what we're doing. And again, for brands and from a business perspective, if you were trying to reach this 30 and under demographic, this diverse, multicultural demographic, you need to do that in a way that's real and authentic. So I think we provide that as well. But culturally, gaming is a part of everything we do. From examples like virtual concerts at in Fortnite now that are
Yep.
grossing anywhere from $10 to $20 million. I promise you, like that's a lot easier to pull off than an entire tour an artist might do with 16 stops. It doesn't gross anywhere near as much money.
Right.
So people in those industries are watching that. Twitch streamers today are the new TV stars. So instead of an entire TV production, you've got a Mr. Beast, you've got a top tier streamer who can carry and command an audience of, we have one of our streamers, Hannah is one of the most famous Minecraft streamers out there.
Yeah.
She averages over 1 million minutes watched per day by herself, streaming,
Incredible.
right? So understanding what new media looks like is a really, really important thing. And, we understand that, and we understand that like in a lot of ways we're a media company, but in a lot of ways we're a social network, right? It changes. So,
Yeah.
just I think what's also important is making sure that you touch every game that's relevant. Talking about games like Minecraft. Minecraft is still the top game on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's still one of the most watched titles. One of the creators we work with has built up a TikTok following of 3 million
Wow.
in a very short period of time, strictly with Minecraft content. So whether it's Minecraft all the way to the hardcore stuff like Valorant, like you've got to touch everybody. NASCAR, like being in NASCAR now, XSET is a brand that people in NASCAR know about, right? So
Right.
it's really about, there are gamers in NASCAR. I bet you, a good 20, 25%, if not more, of NASCAR fans are probably gamers, right? Younger demographic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we want to make sure that XSET as a brand and a company is involved in front of all those people.
How do you guys balance being everywhere you need to be, but also being nimble so that you can jump in and out of games? Fall Guys was like the biggest thing for like 3 weeks this summer.
Yeah.
And then Among Us, how long is Among Us going to be around? What is kind of your strategy around that?
So a couple things. One, I've worked in everything from game development and design early on to the marketing, to the partnerships, to the sponsored content, to esports and competitive gaming. The one thing with gaming that is a constant, I think, is that the games that people play will always change. And you need to be prepared as a company to seize on those opportunities and to be able to move very quickly. We have not, to date, written any 8-figure checks that really kind of tie us as a business to a particular title. We participate in many of the games that have open leagues, games that are growing, or have leagues that we have been able to get into in ways that make good business sense for us. Leagues like Rocket League, for example.
Sure.
That allow us to compete in top, fast-growing esports, and also are from a business perspective make sense.
Yeah.
Fortnite, we continue to do that. So, we're not going to make any overly aggressive bets, but, we'll definitely look at games on a case-by-case basis. But I promise you, what people are playing 2 years from now, 3 years from now is going to be very different than what people are playing right now. There's not too many League of Legends or, CSGOs out there in the world. Those games, are unique, right? So,
right.
You really have to be able to appeal to that, whether it's mobile gaming or whether it's PC, more traditional focused stuff. You got to look for it.
I agree. Yeah, I think one of those bigger differences is this year was the 101st year of the NFL. League of Legends has been around 11 years.
Yeah,
something like that. And so you always got to have your fingers on the pulse. Well, I feel like I could talk to you forever. There's a lot that I'd love to learn from. I think our audience learned a lot today. I certainly did. Is there anything that you'd love to plug or give us a tease to have an eye out for in the near future here?
Probably a lot of things. I could say this much. We've been busy in the first 7 months, but the next 7 months make the first 7 months look like, a walk in the park. We've got some really exciting announcements around some professional gamers, some partners that we're going to be bringing into esports that have not yet been in the space.
Cool.
And then we're going to really further push, I think, the collaborations between music and gaming.
Yeah.
With some of the things that we have planned for this year, and we're excited about that, right? So I think that I would just keep an eye on XSET and make sure you're following us and you see what we're up to and what we're about. And there's always a place at the organization for people that feel like this is what they're all about as well. And some good stuff coming down the pipe.
Cool. Well, we'll definitely be watching XSET. Can't wait to see what happens next. Marco Mereu, thank you so much for your time. You're a busy guy. We appreciate you being here on the DLC Drop podcast today.
Dude, thank you so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Thank you for listening to the DLC Drop podcast. This podcast is part of the Esports Futuri Podcast Network and produced by Innovation Media Enterprises. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcast channel and leave us a review.